Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Are you calling from Acapulco, Mexico?
Yes, I am, in fact. That's why the line is so terrible. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. We're just, we thank you for calling in. I'll tell people about a couple of dates coming up. There's a speaking tour called the Dangerous Faggot Tour. Milos is heading up, and at the bottom, by the way, it says...
what's it called? I didn't get that. One more time.
The Dangerous Faggot Tour.
Okay. Gina, would you mind telling me what it's called? I didn't quite get that.
Won't do it.
Okay.
At the bottom of the bio, it says, is openly gay.
What?
We have a crack team over here, Milo.
How would I know that?
I know you went to Rutgers and caused a ruckus, and there's. Can you tell us about that and tell us about some of your trials and tribulations, or at least get people familiar with who you are if they're not already?
Sure. I'm a senior editor at Breitbart, so my job is to write about technology, internet culture, social justice, some of the crazy stuff going on campus. I do a bit about gender and feminism, sexuality, all of the fun stuff. I'm doing a tour at the moment talking about freedom of speech and freedom of intellectual inquiry, and how progressivism is ruining American education. And these guys just keep proving me right. I'm going and giving speeches saying how the left likes to shout people down, prefers to yell and bully and intimidate instead of engage in arguments because they don't have any. And these guys just keep proving me right. So at Rutgers, you had feminists and Black Lives Matter protesters leaping up and smearing blood on their faces. Yeah, this man preaches hatred, and what have I done? I've said that it would be a good idea if universities were places of learning and open free inquiry.
Whoa, easy there, buddy. Spread your hate somewhere else.
Yeah, it's insane, right?
I know. These are the sorts of dangerous thoughts that can get you banned on American campuses these days, suggesting that universities should be open to conservative points of view. It's shocking, I realize, but this is the sort of stuff that the left is just losing its marbles about. I'm a problem for them because although I'm very obviously homosexual, I don't believe in anything they believe, and they think that your skin color, your sexuality, and your gender should define your politics. I find that a bit gross. They just don't know how to handle me. And so Minnesota, we had air horns and yelling. I mean, it's just been a crazy sort of pandemonium. Everything I do seems to turn into this sort of incredible live spectacle. It's like the internet come to life. It's been a remarkable thing so far.
Well, what I don't understand is obviously I grew up in the 70s, and I grew up with a mom that, made me watch Billy Jack 15 times and Roots 128 times. So I get it. We can never judge, and everyone's opinion is valid and blah, blah, blah. What I don't get is how they don't see the irony in what they're saying. So they're saying, well, let's say I identify as a female, and then I should have the right to use any bathroom I like because I identify as a female, or I should be able to use whatever locker room I like. So what they're saying is this person identifies, has an opinion, has a thought, or whatever, and you cannot judge in any way, shape, or form what this person does. They've built their entire curriculum on that. And then somebody comes in and says, now let me give you my point of view. And they start screaming.
They shut it down.
At the person. I don't get why they don't get the irony of it. And then they don't realize how foolish they look doing what they preach against all day.
Well, I mean, it's even more crazy than you suggest. I mean, let free speech, and not just free speech, but offensive speech, and the right to be offensive, the kind of speech that annoys the establishment, whether the establishment is, you could say, the religious right 30 years ago, or the progressive establishment today that runs the media, academia, and entertainment industry. The right to speak rudely about the people who rule over you, whether it's culturally or politically, isn't just an engine of progress and doesn't just keep us safe, but it's an engine of progressive progress as well as anything else, as much as anything else. The right to be offensive, which sometimes I am, the right to be outrageous, the right to crack jokes at those in power, is what gave women the vote. It's what, gay marriage. It was instrumental in the civil rights struggle. But progressives, now that they run the universities and they run the entertainment industry, they run the newspapers, they've forgotten what got them there, which is a citizen's right to say, think, do anything, and the open marketplace of ideas. They're no longer interested in an open marketplace of ideas. What instead they want to do is simply reinforce some very batty, crazy ideas about gender and sexuality and police the way that other people choose to live. Well, I don't believe that. I think people should be free to pursue, whatever crazy interests they like in their private time.
But
I think people should be free to read any book, to play any video game, to watch any movie. And I don't think these art forms should be corrupted by progressive left critics who say, "Oh, there aren't enough paraplegic Armenian lesbians in them." The left is just gone crazy. These days.
I agree.
They want to police everything.
I agree, but. So help me understand something. And by the way, you used a word that you said offensive. You may say things that are offensive, but it's so funny. These same people would have no problem with puppetry of the penis.
That's awesome.
The traveling group coming and playing at the auditorium. But here's what I don't understand. I've never really understood. If somebody wants to come on campus or just into my neighborhood and they're going to give a Black Lives Matter symposium and there are going to be a lot of speakers from the community, I'm probably not going because I don't believe there is a problem. I believe they've overblown the problem, and I don't believe in what they're preaching. I really don't. But I don't go over there with a air horn. I just stay home. It's not my thing. And there's a million other religions and a million other groups and a million other causes where they go do their thing and I stay home.
You're not trying to interrupt it. You're just trying to stay out of it.
I'm not trying to. They're trying to destroy it.
Right.
And my feeling is...
This is the arrogance of the left, you see. This is their arrogance. What I say to them when they start disrupting the speeches is, look, if you don't want to be here, if you don't like me, if you don't like what I'm saying, if you don't think that there's any value to me beyond campus, don't come. But what right do you have to stop other people from going to whatever show they want? So going to listen to any comedian they want, to go and, ask a journalist questions who they've admired and read for a long time. What right do you have to disrupt or to ban, a speaker that plenty of people on campus, more people on campus, by the way, than you and your friends, might enjoy? You have no right to do that. And in fact, every time this stuff is tested at any courts, when colleges try to ban speakers, more often than not, the First Amendment prevails. And there's a great organization called FIRE.org, which sometimes helps student groups to, get past the colleges and the student unions who want to ban people on campus. It's very rarely possible if you really take it all the way. But the point about all this is, the left now doesn't just want to lay down the law about preferences and about what is good art and bad art, but it also wants to enforce those prejudices and those conclusions on other people. It isn't enough for the left anymore for them to explain to us, what's problematic, what's damaging or distressing to them. They want to prevent us from watching and reading and enjoying those things, and that's the problem.
Well, it's an insane form of narcissism to say, I don't share this person's view on these subjects, and I'm going to go over there and make sure that I pull the cord out of the microphone so that he can't share or she can't share her views with others, which, again, it's insanely narcissistic, but it's also makes you a hypocrite. Either way, you're going to be playing, by the way, you're going from Acapulco to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and then Bucknell University, and then the University of Pittsburgh, yes?
Yep.
And more dates. I'll give you the way to spell the website. YIA, 2 N's, OPOULOS.
Nice Irish boy.
.net is how you can find out where Milo's going to be playing. And for you, this Rutgers thing, do you know, can you give us this sort of a thumbnail sketch of what happened?
Sure. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. I was giving a speech, as I say, about sort of freedom of speech, free expression, free academic intellectual inquiry, freedom of creativity, the idea that we should all be free to, read what we want, stuff we've been talking about in this conversation. And the Black Lives Matter and the feminist protesters started jumping up and yelling and chanting and smearing themselves with fake blood. And of course, my fans started yelling, Trump, 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 to kind of drown them out, which was all very hilarious. The funniest bit of this happened later, though. Happened a couple of days ago, long after I'd been at the university, almost a week or two later, and the front page of the Daily Times, which is the Rutgers student newspaper, that's their sort of print newspaper that's on campus everywhere, every day, carried a front page story. Some of the students who weren't even at the talk had gone to group therapy sessions with university administrators because they were so shaken up by the fact that I had spoken on campus. You know, this is what our education system is doing to our young people. It is giving them these pathetic pathologies. They cannot cope with, you know, a gay guy with the wrong opinions, to the point where they had to have the police, counseling services, anti-violence services, you know, all of these services that are paid for by other people's tuition fees. And these crazy sort of social justice lefties quivering in the corner because a gay guy would be on campus with different opinions from them. And these guys like genuinely feel, I'm sure they are genuine when they say they feel traumatized and scared and shaken. This is what the American university system is doing to children. It is infantilizing them. Kids are coming out dumber than they were when they went in. They're coming out, emotionally crippled by an education system that insulates them from other points of view instead of exposing them to other points of view, which should be the purpose of education. It's absolutely astonishing. And what happened at Rutgers is a deep humiliation for the university and any other universities where kids are becoming traumatized by different political points of view. That it speaks to a colossal, staggering, humiliating failure
the
of
way
university.
Listen, I agree, and I can remember, and most young men can, and women too, a different version of it perhaps, but I could remember playing football as a kid, getting a guy really putting his shoulder into me, getting the wind knocked out of me. Mm-hmm. And the whole deal was you had to pop back up, even if you couldn't breathe, and you had to walk back to the huddle, and you had to do it in such a way that the other person didn't know they just cracked a rib or knocked the wind out of you. You weren't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing you bent over or down on a knee or calling in, the medical guy or laying on the... There were times, so many times, that this whole country, sorry about using this country as that metaphor, but this whole country is sort of based on get up, dust yourself off, and you walk back. You may be hurting, but you walk back to that huddle and don't do it with a limp. Yeah. And don't be holding your side. That's going to let the guy have the satisfaction of knowing.
We don't flop for a yellow card like in merry old England.
He's gay. He doesn't follow sports.
Exactly.
A rainbow card, whatever.
Right.
You're so right. But you see, kids have been coddled so much. They have been coddled and insulated from anything that might challenge their preconceptions to such an extent that it seems to be causing them genuine trauma when they encounter different points of view. We're not even talking about physical issues. And the way that they've distorted language to talk about, violent speech, as if there could possibly be such a thing. The way that they talk about safety on campus as though a different political opinion in some way endangers their physical safety. This is like crazy talk.
I agree.
Thousands of students in America believe this stuff.
What is the most... if you were to think of what would be the most in terms of the content of your speech when you have an engagement, what would be the most controversial part of your speech or a statement that you might make over the course of a speaking engagement? Dangerous faggot?
Well, probably the name of the tour. I mean, I don't say anything as outrageous as the name of the tour.
Right.
No, I mean, look, I'm deliberately provocative. I'm not out here to suggest that I'm kind of some kind of, nice, meek, genteel, professorial type. That's not me, right? I go out, I'm provocative, but it's just words. It's language. I will go out and say, for example, I ran a poll on my Twitter account. Would you rather your child had A, feminism, or B, cancer? And it's just a stupid, funny provocation. 22,000 people voted, by the way, and they voted for cancer. But I'll say, I'll say things like this.
That's right.
22,000 people, and cancer won 55-45. I had people writing to me saying I'm a cancer survivor and I'd still rather my kid had cancer than feminism. I mean, this stuff is funny and provocative and silly, and then I get into the real nitty-gritty about how I think the modern third-wave feminist movement is leaving women behind, driving the sexes apart. We get into the data, right? Evidence-based stuff.
What created...
in a provocative way, but the point is it's just words.
But Milo, who created you? Because you're a voice that normally you don't hear, and especially in the gay community, coming out of Britain and everything like that. So how did you form these things, which I agree with, because I just sort of think I know what the answer is. It just is. It's out there. It's in nature. Where kids aren't getting better, they're getting worse. We're coddling them. I agree with, I'm sure, 96% of what you're saying, but I don't come from your background. How did you have a turning point, or is this something it's always been in you?
Well, I think it's always been in me. I mean, America has a great tradition of importing sassy, provocative British publicists, right? You've always taken the very best British journalists and stolen them for yourself. Smart, interesting, provocative people. There's quite a long history of that in America.
Well, except for Piers Morgan. I wasn't there for that Piers Morgan vote went down. We didn't want him.
Piers Morgan is the dishonorable exception to this pattern. But I'd like to see myself in a similar tradition of British polemicists who don't get on brilliantly in Britain, because in Britain we hate attention seekers and brash people and people with oversized personalities, which I suppose I would have to admit I have. But in America, these things people are much more enthusiastic, interested in big personalities. So I've certainly found much more of a home in America to talk about the things I care about. Certainly, one of the reasons I've come to have the political points of view I have is growing up as a Catholic and gay, and looking at the gay establishment and realizing, actually, I had no problem coming out as a homosexual, but I did have a problem coming out as a conservative, and in particular, the hostility from gay people when you reveal, the heresy that you are, you believe in a state, or the heresy, that you're religious, was far worse than anything I've ever encountered from supposed homophobes. And the gay establishment really doesn't have very much to say about gay issues anymore, doesn't do very much for gay people. It seems to just be a sort of outgrowth of the leftist political parties in whatever country it lives. It cares more about language policing and policing other people's sexualities and, enlarging the size of the state than it cares about AIDS, for instance. And I just saw this huge, powerful, bullying gay lobby, gay establishment. I thought, these people do not represent me. And I'm sure that I'm not alone in that. And indeed, I'm not alone in that. And so many people come to me and say, thank God you're a gay person in public life who doesn't, toe the line. Thank you for you.
Well, I don't think I don't think the big lobby works for any group, honestly.
It doesn't,
you wouldn't,
but you see, the thing is,
you wouldn't need one if it worked.
Now that the gay marriage stuff is basically ironing itself out, and gays can pretty much do the same as everybody else, there's not really any reason why gay people would vote for left-wing politicians anymore, because it's not in their interest. Gays are natural libertarians. There's no reason why we should sign up to a leftist system where men pay so much more into the system and women take loads out. Why should I subsidize your pregnancy? I don't think my taxation quite that selfishly, but you understand that people are going to vote in their own self-interest. Gays are natural libertarians. There's no reason why they should vote for left-wing parties anymore, particularly when you think how boring and dull and language policing left-wing parties are. The essence of gay culture is pushing boundaries. It is testing taboos. If you think about the outrageousness, how wickedly funny drag queens are, all of that stuff is about pushing the boundaries of acceptable speech and thought. But the modern progressive establishment, which includes the gay establishment, doesn't believe in any of those things. So it strikes me as obvious that once, that you've got sort of stuff like gay marriage out of the way, gay people are going to start flocking to the right and going to start flocking to libertarian parties, and they already are. The gay establishment hasn't realized this yet, and it's going to take a very long time to catch up if it ever does.
By the way, speaking of flocking, they have the names for like a pride of lions or a herd
of crows.
Yes. Let it be known that more than 3 gays together is a parade. I called a parade of gays. You can use that, Milo.
It's a technical term.
Gina Grant has a question.
I would call them a boredom of gays, because any group of gay men larger than 2 becomes insufferably dull to me. All they want to talk about is, the same things all the time. They have the same politics. Gays en masse as a large group are incredibly dull. They have a very undeserved reputation for being sassy and funny and brilliant to be around. Gays are great in small numbers, but in big groups, terrible. So my collective noun is a boredom of gays.
Milo, I have a quick question for you. Curious about this. I have a lot of friends, liberal friends, that are progressive and actually are quite outspoken about their feelings on the regressive left. Yes. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you've heard of or met Dave Rubin, comes to mind, a friend of mine. He's a political commentator. I wonder if any of those guys have reached out to you, because even though you might seem far away politically, there are so many things that are just so simpatico when it comes to people that are just against the regressive left, but are still very liberal, just don't like like the direction it's going.
Well, I think that the fact that left-wingers in America are called liberals is sort of a linguistic joke. It's almost it's a bit of an anachronism, because these people aren't liberal. They don't believe in liberalism. They're not classical liberals. They don't believe that people should be left of their own devices. The left used to, but it doesn't anymore. And most of my fans are disaffected liberals. Most of Dave Rubin's fans are disaffected liberals. Most of, and in fact, even people who are very hardline, socially conservative people like Ben Shapiro, one of my colleagues at Breitbart, many people like him because he is fearless and because he stands up to the language police. He doesn't mind if he upsets and offends. I think a lot of people who would consider themselves, reflexively think of themselves as left-wing, feel very aggrieved that the leftist establishment sort of abandoned them, has moved off into these crazy gender politics, these crazy racial politics. They don't reflect what most people believe.
It's funny you should say abandoned.
That they are internalized. Most women don't believe they're internalized misogynists. Most people don't believe that there is, a white patriarchal cis-het superstructure keeping, most people don't believe this crazy stuff that you read at BuzzFeed and Vox and Gawker and Mike and all these other terrible places. They don't believe this stuff. And the left has abandoned these people. So, by far the biggest contingent of, Milo fans is disaffected liberals.
Well, it's funny because that is the phrase that comes up when we have these conversations, is exactly that they feel abandoned by their party.
Well, I'm going to let you enjoy what I'm assuming is a vacation in Acapulco, a vacation, and give the person on the lounge chair next to you a break. That guy's like, I just wanted a fucking Mai Tai.
The pool is emptied since we began talking. The pool area is now empty.
2 coconut cups over his ears.
I left LA to get away from this shit. Never ends. Thank you, Milo. Is it Milo or Milo? Am I screwing this up?
It's Milo, but I don't get offended, so don't worry.
Thank you, Milo. I appreciate it. We'll see you in the flesh. I think sometime around March in studio here.
I'm very much looking forward to meeting you in March.
I am too, and I'll give Ben Shapiro a big sloppy kiss from you.
Interesting guy.
All right, here's Milo.
Well, you hear this a lot from scientists. You hear this a lot, in particular, from female scientists. But the fact is that there is some reason to suppose that there is an advantage to being a man in certain subjects. There's reason to suppose that gender essentialism, biological determinism, whatever you want to call it, the fact that there are male brains and female brains, may indeed have some basis in science. Now, this is sort of thrown out of the window completely by feminists and female academics who just refuse to accept that there's any reason whatsoever why there might be a gender imbalance. 2 things on that. 1, actually, the science is very much still out on that. And 2, if you look at equality in society, if you look, for example, at Bangladesh versus Norway, what you notice is the number of women in science and technology subjects actually goes down as societies get more equal, because women simply don't make the same choices that female academics and feminists would like them to. Women actually don't want to go into the sciences on the whole, and when they have every option available to them, they tend to choose not to.
Yeah, I've said this a million times. Like, why are there more white firemen than Asian or black firemen? It should, and it's like, maybe white guys are more attracted to this versus nursing.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus airport security. Like, I don't know. Can we just, let's decide that there's not discriminatory hiring practices, and then once we do, there's just more white firemen. That's the way it is.
Let the water reach its own level.
Or it's 96% males. I don't know why, but I don't know what percentage of nursery school teachers are males. I'm not attracted to that. I wanted to be a fireman. I never wanted to be this. If my son wants to teach nursery school, that'll be fine. But I'm guessing the lion's share of young boys he plays basketball with would rather be a fireman at this point. It's a biological thing. Are we cool? Mm-hmm. Are we okay? All right, we'll take a quick break. Milo Yiannopoulos.
Hello.
Is in studio. We're all... Well, at least I'm a big fan. I can't speak for everyone. And I don't know that everyone isn't a big fan. I've gotten off to a rough start. We're all huge fans.
No, it's fine. Do you know, I wanted to do one of those things, like celebrities read mean tweets. I wanted to do my own version. The problem is that everyone fucking loves me. So I mean it nicely, but, I'm looking on the internet trying to find, really funny, trolly replies, and occasionally somebody will say, go take a bath with a toaster, and it's like a 6 out of 10, Right. I like to give my trolls scores. I'll rank them, and then I'll give them tips on how to improve, because I want better haters.
Have you blocked anybody?
Well, I try not to block people because I quite like to hit. I like the crazy of the internet. You know, everybody else, or every other journalist I know hates their readers, hates comment sections, hates Twitter, all the rest of it. I love it. I love the drama. I love the chaos. I think it's fantastic. So I like to read everything, as awful as it is and as great as it is.
The speaking tour is the Dangerous Faggot Tour.
Dangerous Faggot Tour,
which is continuing through 2016. Dates and tickets are at the website. That is, I'll spell it out for you. YIANNOPOULOS.net is where you go. Now, you start off, and you still are, a technology correspondent for Breitbart, but then start spinning off into some other directions.
I could not be contained by one vertical.
And what do you is that I feel the timing is perfect for a guy like yourself because we're going insane. And I always say, this guy was talking about metal, but I always say grunge music was born of hair bands. We'd had enough Aquanet and eyeliner to last us we had an impacted ass full of guys in spandex pants. So we went full Kurt Cobain and Soundgarden. That's where we went.
The pendulum swung the other way.
Yes, and we're going so insane on campuses now that we're all dying for your voice to come out and scream at us and set us straight.
It's kind of you to say so. I think what's interesting about me sort of popping up at the moment is that I'm kind of impervious to the usual critiques from the left. Now, what they like to do when you make any kind of evidence-based argument, whether it's about women in the workplace, you played a clip earlier which was about why there aren't more women in whatever, whether it's about the wage gap, whether it's about campus rape culture, any of these other lies the left tells to get at people, their usual strategy, if you try to ask them for evidence or facts or you dispute their version of events, is to try to delegitimize you as a human being rather than interrogate the argument, because of course they can't, because they're wrong. None of the facts are on their side. So they'll call you a bigot, they call you a misogynist, a racist, a homophobe, a transphobe. I mean, most people don't even know what these words mean. Less still guilty of the offences. They sort of can't get me on any of that stuff because I'm a, sassy, gay, British columnist who never shuts up about black dick. You can't get me on racism, you can't get me on sexism, you can't get me on homophobia. It just doesn't stick because it's not so obviously not true. I don't know English
desserts. What is black dick again?
It's like spotted dick.
Yeah, black dick. It's a layer of chocolate ganache with a cream topping. And you just shove it up your ass repeatedly.
I'm going out to England this summer. I'm going to ask for some black dick.
Outside. I know how this show goes.
Well, when I'm driving in the cab on the way from Heathrow, I'll just say, "Find me some black
dick."
Take me to the nearest.
Yeah,
take me to. I've got a lust for black dick.
I find it sad. I'm with you on this, but I've said it a million times. I find it really sad that I have many answers to many of life's vexing problems.
I listen to your show. I know you're right about almost everything.
It's usually family and education. But I can't go on Huffington Post and explain to the nice young lady what's going on in the black community because I'm not black. Which is insane. It's insane. It's like saying your doctor can't work, only has to work on people of his own nationality or something. And by the way, am I not allowed to have an opinion on anything? Do I have to be stuck in traffic to have an opinion on traffic? Or can I do it from my house in my slippers? It's insane.
Do you know, I've actually written a column about this, and my conclusion on this subject...
And it's racist.
It is racist. You're absolutely right. I've written a column about this. I have decided that, in fact, these equality and diversity departments, so long as they exist, if we think they need them, they should be staffed exclusively by rich, straight, older white men. Why? Well, for the same reason that it works quite well when judges look like that. Because they're not subject to the supposed oppression under discussion, they're not biased. Who better than somebody, if you believe in the concept of privilege, which is, of course, fairy stories, like a conspiracy theory dreamed up by the left to bash people they don't like. If you believe that there is a patriarchal, heteronormative, cis, white, conspiracy theory to keep oppressed minorities down, surely you want the most impartial possible judge. You want somebody who's not affected by privilege, somebody who's going to be able to take a dispassionate view of the warring fact, because very often these things come into combat with one another, women versus gays, or Hispanics versus blacks, or as the sort of stuff.
Rich Whitey with the monocle
somebody needs to sift through this stuff, so why not choose the most privileged people of all? So I'm out, obviously, but when Daddy's president and when he elects me to press secretary, I'm going to put your name forward for the head of equality and diversity in the Trump White House, because I very firmly believe you would be the best person for the job.
The other spurious argument that a lot of folks on the left make when you bring up any of these facts is they pull out an example. Like, I know a single mom of 18 who actually worked her way through college and now is a successful attorney. And it's like, yeah, okay. I go nuts because whenever Bill Maher starts talking about radical Islam, it's like, whoa, not everybody. I know I went to high school with a guy who was Muslim, who's perfectly gentle. Like, yes, not everyone. Stop it. It's no way. This is the worst way to solve a problem. Well, the worst way to solve a problem is like the doctor to go, not everyone has smallpox. And you go, yes, but a significant number of our society does.
Enough people have smallpox to make it a health risk.
Right. So
I
treated a kid this morning who did not have smallpox.
So you can't say smallpox. And it's like, yes, we can. And why can't we? Wait a minute. Do you have smallpox? No, I don't. Well, then you shouldn't be talking about it. It's an insane way to solve a problem.
Well, the left has developed this view of the universe, which now unfortunately obtains in the majority of the media and in all universities everywhere, which is why I'm doing a college tour, that is based on identity politics, that there is something about what you're born as that gives you special X, Y, Z. Now, I thought we were past this stuff, I thought the left was down with Martin Luther King, judged by the content of character, not by skin color. Actually, the thing that people don't realize is that Martin Luther King lost, Malcolm X won. And now feminism has become about female supremacy and sort of female chauvinism and misandry. Black Lives Matter is a violent, destructive, selfish black supremacy movement. And all these things are based ultimately on a philosophy from the left of identitarian politics, like what you are is what you were born, rather than, as I think perhaps most people on the right and most libertarians, and certainly most of the people that I like, would prefer society to be, we would prefer society to be organized according to what you think and what you say, what you believe, the work you've done, what you've learned, your conclusions, your reason. And the reason that the left loves to fall back on anecdotes, as you correctly identified, is that their whole world is viewed through the prism of individual identity. And when you try to approach them and say, well, why don't we look at the data on this? Why don't we look at what's actually happening in society? They don't want to know because they want to talk about emotions and specific instances because their whole universe is translated through this filter of my personal experience and my lived lived experience. Actually that's runs really contrary to my lived experience. Here's what I've actually discovered in my life. I don't care about because you're dumb as fuck and you don't know anything. You've never learned anything, and you're spouting political positions on the basis of the fact that you didn't get a rent control apartment. This is the level of discourse on the left now. It's very difficult to break through that with facts, but that's what I'm trying to do with the tour.
Here's first off, facts for people who don't want to hear the facts are tough to digest. Right. I mean, you can't do it like you're trying to get some nice goose pate. It'd be nice if you could just ram it down their throats. But if you have someone who's not
sexualized
interested in facts, then the facts aren't going to take. So
that's why I try to offend them instead.
Right. Part of the problem, Gary, you can find me having a nice conversation with a nice lady on the Huffington Post talking about the school-to-prison pipeline. But, see, the thing about facts is you're coming at a place where it's like, look, we would like less black people incarcerated, and we would like less black people, young black men, shot. So let's try to solve this problem. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've talked to some people and I've crunched some numbers. It turns out when families stay intact, their children are much more likely to have success. And they go, well, that's your white privilege talking. And you go, no, I looked at the
intrinsic
numbers.
To your skin color that makes you a deadbeat dad or whatever. No, take some fucking personal responsibility.
Families
look after your children and life gets better for everybody.
It turns out married couples are much more successful than single. Turns out the children of married couples statistically less likely to end up in jail, much more likely to get a college degree and live out of poverty. There's a million statistics just saying, stay together, raise your children, have success. That's it. And by the way, it universally affects white, brown. If any Japanese folks ever got divorced, I say it would happen to them too, but I'm not aware of that.
Once the scourge of divorce reaches the nation of Japan.
Then when you go across the color rainbow,
You're absolutely
it has
right
the same effect on young Hispanic kids and young white kids as it does on young black kids. So it's out.
Yeah.
We know what the facts are. Now, could we simply implement that? And it's like, not so fast. So are we really talking about a group of people that would like to solve a problem? Because if you really want to solve a problem, you do that. If you don't, we then call you a racist, sexist, homophobe, or sorry, that's me, and what have you.
I think they like to call me the homophobic homosexual because I don't like gay marriage very much, and I'm trying to wrap my head around the sort of name calling strategy of the left. It's amazing. It's good fun. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about all of those things. And there's a reason why fast-growing economies don't have a huge clamour for gay marriage and all the rest of it, because they recognise that traditional heterosexual nuclear family is the engine of the economy and the building blocks of a healthy society. It keeps crime down, it keeps happiness up, it keeps productivity up. If you're, a right-winger and who cares about that sort of stuff, that's good stuff. If you're a left-wing and you care about people's happiness and flourishing and fulfillment, I mean, I think we all care about all those things, but you know what I mean? If you're coming from an emotional point of view, like the left often does, the best way for people to be happy is to have a mum and dad.
But the thing that's crazy is when it comes to climate change, they're all about the numbers, the data, statistics. All of a sudden, they all become meteorologists, which is fine, but which is it? Are you data-based? Because you're telling me that in Greenland, the ice shelf has shrunk 21% since 1978, and that the water's risen in Florida 3 millimeters in the last 10. Okay, good. I like stats. I got some stats about family and the school to prison pipeline and the black community. Would you like to look at those stats? No, I shun those and reject those completely and call you racist.
The thing about
is that or not?
Well, the thing you have to understand about the liberal mind is it is capable of the most extraordinary cognitive dissonance. I mean, for example, they will tell you on the one hand that all gender is socially constructed, that people aren't born girls and born boys. It's a sort of thing that evolves as a result of societal privilege.
I have 9-year-old boy-girl twins. So.
Right, and they'll tell you that...
no, you don't know which is which.
They'll tell you... if you're living in Canada, you would be legally forbidden from calling one of them a boy and one of them a girl. Just let them grow up and see what gender they want to be.
Right.
This is all socially constructed. Unless you're a tranny. And then, of course, you've got a female brain. And if you deny that this person is a woman, you are a bigot and you should be shunned from public life. They're perfectly capable of holding not just contradictory beliefs, but contradictory scientific beliefs. They're perfectly capable of, of presenting, studies and numbers and all the stuff that we like, completely contradictorily in different circumstances and not giving a shit about it. Most of the climate change stuff, they contradict themselves. Most of it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. For the party of science, for the side that they like to think of themselves as the side with the numbers and with the science.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They have so little respect for the scientific method. It's extraordinary.
Here's what I like to try to tell whenever I talk to Ed Begley Jr. I said, look, I replaced all my conventional light bulbs with LED light bulbs because it's cheaper for me.
Yeah.
And I'm motivated to do it. They last longer. I get a smaller electric bill. Win-win, and you get slightly less greenhouse gases or whatever it is. So, whether we're creating climate change or not is not really, to me, it's not really argument. It's if we are, then let's build nuclear power plants because that'll save a lot more than coal burning plants would do. No, we're against that. So which is it once again? Can we look at the statistics? Can we crunch some numbers? Can we simply ask smart people, what is the cleanest form of energy? They will tell you it is nuclear. Now, all right, can we use that? Absolutely not. Okay, but so more guys just die in a coal mine. Is that okay? Well, no. Well, then what do we use? I don't know. I'll tell you what I don't want. And that's the answer.
It's interesting how they started this fight too on the climate change thing. They went in hysterically, apocalyptically on emotion-based stuff. Like, we are terrible people. We're raping the natural world. We're destroying the world around us. It's all our fault. Man-made climate change, and they upgraded it to climate chaos. And these super. And it was only really when they realised that they had to be evidence-based, they started winning people over. They're saying, well, there's that whole other thing, like, there just won't be any of this stuff left, and we need energy security. And then normal people were like, oh, actually, I would like cheaper bills. And it would be good if we did have power in 50 years. And okay, fine, we'll do it that way. They don't seem to understand that, most people want to know about numbers and data and evidence. And instead, it was this sort of apocalyptic, guilt shaming. I mean, all this stuff comes to the middle class, right? What you would call the upper middle class is the root of all evil. That's where feminism comes from. This is where, this sort of, this middle class white guilt that gives rise to most of, the liberal nonsense. And they just seem to hate themselves and everybody else. And I get the impression they just wish that people weren't on this planet. I mean, you look at the president. Obama obviously doesn't like the country very much. You look at liberals; they don't like people very much. I mean, they just seem like it's just sort of a political movement born out of the most abject self-loathing. Yet they have the gall to call me a self-loathing homosexual because I like to, make an interesting argument about whether gay marriage is a good thing or whatever. They'll pathologize you whilst having their entire worldview ultimately born out of self-loathing.
We got the HuffPo thing. I want to say this real quick, you've arrived as a country when you hate yourself. You mean you're out of problems. We were talking about the Filipinos.
You turn that laser inward.
Yeah. Filipinos love themselves some Filipinos. I mean, Manny Pacquiao's punch drunk and president. You know what I mean? Like, they love it. And when Manny Pacquiao fights, the whole city shuts down. And by the way, that's 4 a.m. on a Sunday or whatever, because with the time difference and whatever it is. But, I said country, city? Yeah, we screwed up. Anyway. So the Philippines love the Philippines. We were just talking about this with Max Pata. You marry a Filipino, do a Filipino profession, don't embarrass your father with the blah, blah, blah.
With the guitar playing.
With the guitar music. Playing and this, that, and the other. This country's officially out of problems, so we have plenty of energy to turn on ourselves, which I believe we're doing right now. Look, when you're trying to conquer nature and build cabins in the woods and stuff, you don't turn. No. You don't have energy. We got a lot of extra energy. Yes. I'll play this HuffPo thing, and I want to know if you think Mother England has the same energy to hate themselves or more.
There's a reason I left.
All right. Let's listen to the nice lady argue with me over two simple concepts.
Talking about, I have,
So what was it that you and Gavin Newsom were talking about? I mean, you were talking about poverty, right?
Gavin Newsom went on this jag where he said half the Hispanic and African American people living in Los Angeles don't have access to an ATM or checking accounts. And I said, why not? And he said, what do you mean, why not? Or something. And I said, what's the problem? And he said, it's a multitude of problems. And I said, well, what are they? And he started off on this jag about check cashing places preying upon blacks and Hispanics. And I said, who else are they preying upon? And he said, everybody. And I said, then why'd you just single out blacks and Hispanics? And he said, because they're preying upon them. He did a bullshit, cowardly politician, talk in a circle, provide no answers, just make these broad sweeping proclamations that black people and Hispanic people couldn't get checking accounts. And my question to him was and still is, why not? What's going on? You mean if a Hispanic person walks into a bank, they're going to be turned away, or what's going on? And then you're a politician. What are we doing here to try to?
He didn't give you a good answer as to perhaps what he thought maybe some of the systemic causes are that
he had zero.
Leave minority groups in in positions where they are more likely to live in poverty and.
I gave him the answer, which is family and education, and we can all get out of this mess. And he said it was much more complicated than that. But then,
what is a little more complicated than that, than just saying family and education?
Not much.
Oh, but come on! I mean, it's a system, right? Where it is much harder to get out of a certain income.
It's a system. Yes, we have a system in place that holds down blacks and Hispanics, but doesn't hold down Indians and Asians. That's our system. Remember at the meeting? Yeah. Let her go. She got another 25 seconds here. But she's arguing with me.
It was much more complicated than that. But then,
what is a little more complicated than that, than just saying family and education?
Not much.
Oh, but come on! I mean, it's a system, right? Where it is much harder to get out of a certain income bracket if you're born into it. If you live in a certain neighborhood,
right?
That's
why you have to focus on family and education. I mean, I'm not Christian or anything.
You're not going to solve everything.
It would solve everything, yeah.
Just family and education. What about the drug war that we have that's failing? What about the school to prison pipeline? Things like this.
The school to prison pipeline, if you focused on education, I think would interrupt the school to prison pipeline.
Well, the problem is that
unless
schools are schools
pipeline.
are maybe not focusing on education so much as they are on reprimanding children.
There she is. She's Huffington Post. That's the talking. There's the talking points. There's your talking point. Full chocolate. Who had answers? Who had more answers? Her or Gavin Newsom?
It was a dead heat.
A dead heat of a big fat fucking zero of answers. Now he wanted to talk about slavery.
It's very strange.
Gavin Newsom's going to be. We're going to get him or Via Retardo as the next governor of California. Everyone, enjoy your lives. I'll be with my family getting educated. Sorry.
No. The weird thing about this is, if there is, for instance, a patriarchal conspiracy to keep women down, it's not doing a very good job.
No.
Women are now going to university more than men. Ugh. There's a male suicide epidemic. According to many figures, women now get paid. If you believe there's a pay gap, if anything, the numbers are reversed and women are getting more money under 30.
Under 30.
If you go to, but this is going up all the time. If you, 97% of workplace fatalities are male. More women go to college. Women get better jobs.
They live longer.
They live, men pay way more into the tax system and take way less out because not just because of pregnancy, because women get sick more and live longer. If there is a patriarchal conspiracy to keep women down, it is doing a really, really bad job. And the same holds true of all of these other leftist conspiracy theories. Look at the numbers. It's not true.
All right. I'm not as far, and we'll do a little news. First, give me a warm-up, would you, sweet chicks?
Be right back.
I like the cut of his chin.
Can I ask a quick question of Milo?
Yes.
So I'm wondering, you do these tours. A lot of them are protested. Sometimes they're shut down. Mm-hmm. Two parts. A, are there kids that actually show up and want to be there and are excited that you're there, because we only see the ones that aren't? And B, has anyone ever come up to you and you've changed their mind, or are they just sitting with their arms crossed?
Well, liberals are fame whores. They're star fuckers. So even the feminists who are disagreeing with the audience come up for photographs and signatures and autographs afterwards. So, and if they even show up to the real talk at all, because, it's raining outside, and why can't I just do it on Facebook? Lazy and disreputable people. If you were to come to the talks, you would discover that this crazy social justice instinct in universities, which is telling white people that there is something wrong with them because they're white, men that there is something wrong with them because they're men, almost sort of elevating homosexuality to a sort of, or anything that isn't straight, to a sort of morally superior environment. It's very weird. The left doesn't see the irony of ridiculing and discriminating against people on the basis of skin color, sex and sexuality, but apparently they don't. You discover actually at my talks sort of bring the internet to life. I have a very large fan base of very excitable and wonderful, smart people who are grateful that somebody is finally talking to the under 40s or whatever. And actually at my talks, you sort of get an internet comment section come to life. So you'll get somebody chanting Black Lives Matter and smearing blood over their faces. But then the frat boys will start chanting Trump, 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 just as a sort of tribal rejoinder. My experience so far has been that the crazy social justice loons are a very small minority. Most people just want to be nice and want to be educated about this stuff and are being told lies by their professors and being told lies by the media and being told lies by the student unions. And they believe this stuff about campus rape culture and the wage gap because they've got no reason not to. But when you go and you give this talk, I just see jaws dropping and eyes widening right all the way through the room. And there's a queue of I rarely talk to audiences of less than 500 these days, and there's a queue of 350 of them waiting for autographs and pictures, and that's almost unprecedented on campuses. It's outside of like proper celebrity, like rock stars.
Milo, I have a theory that flies in the face of what you just said, which is You're
allowed to be wrong. That's okay.
I don't believe that they do believe. I really don't. Like when they say there's a rape culture that's on campuses, why are they shipping their kids off to collge in record numbers? They're female daughters.
I'm talking about the kids. The students do believe this.
The students believe it.
At Rutgers, 2 weeks after I was there, they held a group therapy session. This is true. They had a group therapy session which involved the police, members of the campus authorities, student leaders, professors, to help the students that were so traumatized by my presence on campus, students who hadn't even been to the talk, who were just so traumatized by my presence on campus, by the existence of a gay man with the wrong opinions, that they needed therapy. They needed to be coaxed. Now look, I believe that these students are sincerely traumatized, which is why in the last couple of talks I haven't gone quite as hard on the poor kids. The problem is the faculty. The problem is university administrators. They are not teaching kids properly. And in many cases, in these liberal arts colleges, these small places like Bucknell, in Pennsylvania, the professors don't just not teach the fact-based, libertarian, conservative, alternative points of view to Marx. I mean, Marx, of course, being the number one economics textbook in the country by a huge margin. They don't just not teach the alternatives, they don't even know them. And it's so endemic is this far left progressivism in the education system in this country that they're churning out students who are dumber than when they went in. The gender studies graduates are less able to have a healthy, successful, well-adjusted life and less ready for the workforce than when they started at college. And that's my experience. The problem is not the students, the poor kids who in many cases do feel
you're 19, your brain's mush.
The problem is the faculty and the administrators.
And a lot of the, what I was saying in the hypocritical department, every left-leaning celebrity in this town they've got two issues. They got the rape culture on the campus, and they got the rising sea levels. They're sending their kids off to college and moving to Malibu. So, if you're really worried about the rising sea levels and the rape culture, why are you living in Malibu?
This is the thing. When conservatives say they're worried, when Obama comes out and says yet another thing that makes Second Amendment kind of people worried, they go out and buy guns. They put their money where their mouth is. Every time, Obama doesn't like the First or the Second Amendments very much, but he particularly doesn't like the Second. And every time he says something about guns or tries to push something through an executive order or whatever, sales of guns go up because we put our money where our mouth is. Liberals, on the other hand, who have run these institutions for decades, are now expecting us to believe that these far left liberal institutions are hotbeds of rape and racism. Well, if they are, you did it, mate, and you're still sending your kids there.
That's the part that's always insane to me. Like, you guys,
it's insane.
It's the most liberal place on the planet, and it's basically a rape cellar that you guys have been running for 40 years.
But what's so funny is when they turn it on each other.
Find a mirror.
They would pay for the privilege to go to.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's funny, there was a gender pay gap scandal at Gawker a while ago because some woman, some of these idiot bloggers has been sort of, indoctrinated into believing that there's some kind of wage gap problem at Gawker. She does the same kind of babyish numbers that the regular guys do to come up with, the pay gap.
I can see her walking in. Bad time to ask for a raise. Very bad time to ask for a raise.
All raises have been temporarily suspended.
But it's great because they start turning on each other, and now this happened at Gawker. I mean, the wage gap stuff is nonsense. Most of your listeners will know this, right? If you take the total amount of money earned by women and the total amount of money earned by men, you do a simple division. Well, that's earnings, not wages. Women don't get paid less for the same work. That's because there are all sorts of reasons why. When women don't work as hard, sorry about it. As a gender,
I have two jobs.
As a gender, not you, love.
Outlier.
Not you,
That's
love.
what I'm saying.
Because she does this and she makes your sandwiches. I get it. But women, in general, don't work as hard. They work shorter hours. They take longer holidays, irrespective of children. Now, I'm a nice person. I don't mind subsidizing, pregnancy, even though I'm gay. Like in the tax system, I don't mind paying more in and getting less out because it's babies. It's important, right? We've got to perpetuate the species. But if you lie to women about this stuff, they get very angry about it. And anyway, do you know what I want to know? I want to know where when the gay straight pay gap is going to be fixed. Because the way that they do the numbers with men and women is they just take all the money earned by straight people, all the money earned by women, and all the money earned by men, and they just divide it. Well, I want to take all the money earned by straight people and all the money earned by gay people and divide it. And you're going to find there's a pay gap of I'm like 97% pay gap or something. When are they going to fix it? You see, it's babyish economics when you put anything else in that bucket.
I agree.
But the good thing is they're turning on each other now. Gawker has this scandal. What was it? Was it the Obama White House? There was some Washington Post headlines about this. Obama White House is sort of like terrible pay inequality. Why? Because the women don't work.
They don't have time to worry about that right now. They have to come up with $115 million for Hulk Hogan.
All right, let me make
Isn't
us.
It great?
Who are you for? Who are you voting for?
Daddy, for sure.
Trump.
I call Trump Daddy.
Oh, we're quickly back to England for a second.
Yeah.
We are out of problems here, as I always say, so we hate ourselves.
Agreed.
That's what we do. We're basically like a teenager who has...
I have lots of problems. I still hate myself.
They have nothing. We have nothing to do and eventually they start cutting
on their thigh. We just start, that's what we do. We don't have any predators, any enemies, there's no wars, anything that we fear.
No existential threats.
So we start overdoing it with hand sanitizer, and if someone invents something called Veggie Wash, and my wife goes out and buys it because we don't have problems. But in the UK, you guys are sort of out of problems.
Well, we were.
Well, you were, but are you guys cutting on yourselves like we are, which is constantly beating yourself up?
I like your analysis. It's a sort of return of emo. Those of us who grew up in the 90s, we had Kurt Cobain and Marilyn Manson and Bret Easton Ellis. We kind of knew what pain was. The millennial generation, at least, is what I like to call the first entirely middle-class generation. They've never really known trauma. They've never really known any pain. They've never really wanted for anything. But the slightly older generation, the sort of those bitter 35-year-olds that work at BuzzFeed, who are just obsessed with the world being terrible, who have everything they could ever want. I think your analysis is correct where they're concerned. In America, certainly, it isn't too much to complain about, there wasn't until Obama came in. In the UK, we have a problem, and in Europe more generally, we have a problem, and that is this sort of influx of radical Islam. And the immigration stuff in Germany is horrifying, but the UK hasn't escaped from this. We've got 1,400 girls who were sexually assaulted and gang raped in Rotherham by Pakistani rape gangs.
Well, it's like going to one of our universities.
Which was not well, you would believe that, wouldn't you? Yeah, no. There are real rape cultures. They're in the Middle East. They're anywhere you find Islam.
Yeah, the Ivy League.
Hold on. I know a guy from Pakistan, and I didn't see him rape anyone while I was talking to him. So
it
you're
can't
wrong.
be real. It
you're
can't
wrong.
be real. Well, this is precisely the kind of argument that is used to excuse this stuff, and it's why for 10 years, girls were being targeted, racially targeted. They were going for white girls because they were considered less.
Well, there was whole neighborhoods you couldn't walk through, and nobody said anything. That's in the middle of France.
That's perfectly true, and they still are, and they're getting worse. And Germany is now. Germany as a country is screwed.
Well, Germany. I'll tell you what's going on with Germany. Germany exterminated a bunch of Jews and gypsies and homosexuals and retarded people 65 or 75 years ago, and they're overcompensating now, which is going to cause them problems in the future.
That's true, but they're importing the one group of people that hates Jews even more than the Germans did.
Oh, I never thought about it that way.
It's like Merkel is sort of accidentally welcoming in a second Holocaust.
Well,
these places, you don't read this in the German press, but there are these places in France, bagel stores, and the bagel store bit of it never makes it into the news report. I said, they just totally at random chose this synagogue. They totally at random chose this bagel store, and the media won't report on that. They won't tell you what was actually blown up.
I don't get. I'm not an Obama basher per se. I disagree with a lot of his stuff, but I understand his appeal in many ways. All right. But when he won't call Fort Hood he calls that a workplace killing, or will not say Islamic terror or something, will not even use the words. He says things like unfortunate incident and stuff like that. At that point, it becomes a little comical, right?
But people know this now. They're waking up to this stuff. They realize when Paris happened, it took some British TV networks. I on Sky News very often, love Sky News, love many of those people on there. I did a Trumpism then, didn't I?
They're all fantastic.
Love these people.
Terrific.
Love these people. They're great. Terrific. I love them. We have many great relationships. But it took them a day and a half to say the word Muslim or Islamic or terror. It was just tragedy in Paris. It's not a tragedy. It's not a tragedy. Some guy walked in, went, "Oh, what?" and blew people up,
I know.
All sounds approximate.
Yes.
So, I nailed it. That was good.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
I don't.
Hear me do the Star Spangled Banner.
I don't get it either. I don't.
Well, the reason is that the left has constructed this pyramid of victimhood.
Yes.
White gay men like me don't score very highly anymore, which is why the Daily Beast is telling us that our dating preferences are racist, that we still have white privilege, and you go up the ladder, and the very, very top, even above trannies, who are completely untouchable, perfect, beautiful angels from heaven who can never put a foot wrong. Above trannies, you've got Muslims. Why? Because Muslims agree with the left that the West is bad. And all the things that radical Islam likes, feminists like too. If you look at what they want women to cover up, they want less speech, they want all this stuff. Feminism and radical Islam aren't that different. They look very similar if you actually put them side by side. How they want society to look, segregated, this, that and the other. You've got this crazy Jeremy Corbyn, the left-wing guy who's leading the Labour Party in the UK, who suggested segregated train carriages. Well, where have I seen that before? This is the thing. I mean,
for whom?
For men and women. Men and women. Segregated train carriages for men and women. Now, of course, the left will say it's to protect women from sexual violence. Islam will say it's to, sort of admit that it's because men can't control themselves. Both of those things are sexist. But the end result of this is the same. I say this to Black Lives Matter protesters in college. I say, you know what, guys? You're coming in here stoking racial hatred. I'm sorry to say it, like the KKK. You're coming in here asking for segregated dorms. You want blacks-only dorms. Well, guess who else might have quite liked that? The KKK. You're coming in, and you run through the list of how society would look if these guys got their way, and it ain't that different. And you look at radical feminist progressive politics in America, what they actually want society to look. I know it sounds stupid, but what they want society to look like doesn't look that different from many of the things that Muslims want. And of course, all of the criticisms that radical Muslims and even frankly, mainstream Muslim society. I mean, we're not talking about extremists here. I could be killed for being gay in 11 countries. That's not ISIS. That's mainstream Muslim society, right? But if you look at the criticisms of the West that Muslims in the Middle East make, well, progressives agree with them all.
Yeah, I look. My problem. I have the same sort of stance that Bill Maher has here, which is everyone always goes, well, there's just a tiny, tiny, tiny little minority of folks that are carrying out these atrocities. And yes, that's true. And then there's a much larger group of people that are watching it go down and not really judging or doing anything about it.
Where's the worldwide Muslim peace movement? Because there are Christian ones, there are Buddhist ones, there are Sikh peace organizations, there are African peace movements that want to bring that, to fix this and that continent. There are Indian ones, there are Chinese ones, there are peace movements everywhere in the world. Where's the Muslim peace movement?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like we have the Klan, but the Klan is frowned upon.
It's an irrelevance.
You're shunned. They're irrelevant and they're shunned. Like everyone goes, oh, don't be naive. Okay, you tell me the last time some Klan based atrocity happened. I mean,
name a single white supremacist columnist in a national newspaper or a white supremacist presenter on television, because I can show you some black supremacist ones.
Right.
Name the last time that a white supremacist went anywhere close to saying white people are better and didn't have their life destroyed.
That's the
we don't
point.
tolerate
we
it.
shun it. We shun it. And
despite the fact that we built everything, we did. I mean, there are perfectly valid reasons to be quite proud of what what this particular race has accomplished. If you take the view that I don't.
White pride, what Milo's saying, right?
No, I mean, I don't really care that much because I prefer to interrogate people on the basis of what's in their character. If you take that view,
I'm with you.
If you take that view, then there is an objectively better race.
I scream at people all the time when they're like, I know heterosexual white males are the enemy, but we got the Golden Gate Bridge out of them, didn't we? At least
the internet, we got to space, we got
a few
the global financial system. We've got, we've raised continents that are not white out of poverty thanks to globalization and the free market economy. We're lifting India out of poverty. We've enabled all of China's progress. Well, ain't that fucking bad?
Thank you. Podcast, the Milo, and now I'm gonna spell this out for you: YIANNOPOULOS show, the new podcast. That's on you listen to it on the Podcast One app. Love that.
Yes, that's part of joining the family.
And go online and check him out online and find out where he's going to be in a speaking tour near you. Thank you so much, Milo.
Thanks for having me.
And Joe Coy as well. Coy Pond, check that out. So until next time, it's Adam for Gina and Milo and Bald saying mahalo.